I've been sharing content here on YouTube for over 4 years, and this is one of those topics I try my best not to cover. However, I get asked this question so frequently that I figure, you know what, let's roll up our sleeves, dig into the science, and talk about weight loss. So in today's video, we're gonna talk about 7 different ways, tips and tricks to releasing weight that you potentially have not tried. Hi there, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jessica. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner, a holistic nutritionist, and a registered nutritionist. And here on my channel, we cover all things mom life. However, everything we do here in my space does have a bit of a healthy twist. So if that sounds like something you may be interested in, I would love to have you consider subscribing. So in the month of May, inside of my private membership area, Living Well, we are talking all about our metabolism and aligned weight loss. And I always like to lead with the fact that I am not for diet culture. However, with that being said, I'm also not pro anti-diet culture. I think that we need to find a very healthy and happy balance between these two worlds. And I genuinely believe that in all of my content and all of my videos around health and wellness, I do my best to bring that to you on this platform. So I hope that in today's video, you will find this information helpful and useful, and also understand that we are all about balance here. There are so many incredible ways that we can nourish our metabolism to be metabolically flexible and to find a weight that feels best for us. And you may be surprised that the weight that you feel best at and the way that your labs reflect your health may differ from the number that's in your head. So let's go ahead and roll up our sleeves and dig in. So I have worked with hundreds, if not thousands of women at this point in my nutrition practice. And out of that collection of women, I would say between 80 to 90% are looking to release a few extra pounds. Maybe that's 5 pounds, maybe that's 25 pounds. There's a sliding scale. And I always say that we have to lead with our why first. If your why is because you want to look great in a swimsuit, or is your why because you want to go to the pool this summer with your kids, have fun, and not be constantly thinking about the way you feel and look in your clothing, those are two very different whys, okay? So if your why is that you want to have energy, you want to keep up with your kids, you want to do all of these fun activities and not be distracted with that body dysmorphia and or the fact that the way that you look in clothing, versus the why of I want to fit into this size of a swimsuit, I want to look this way, and I want to see that number on the scale. So once we have our why, that really helps us, and it leads into my second tip, and that helps us to develop a mindset. So once we have our understanding and our why, for me, I want to feel confident, I want to feel comfortable, I want to feel healthy and energized. Those are my whys. And once I have those, I think, okay, if I want to feel confident and comfortable, maybe I need to do a little bit more strength training. I'm working on that one. That is definitely an uphill battle for me. So for me, I want to put on a little bit of muscle. I want to hold things in a little bit differently. As I approach 40 here in the next year, my body is shifting tremendously. But I know my why ultimately is that I want to take care of my body so that my body will help to take care of me. So I can keep up with my children. I can feel great in the clothing that I'm wearing, and my great may be very differently than somebody else's. For me, I don't need to be a certain size. I don't need to be a certain number. I want to feel energized and strong and confident. So now that I have those whys, it helps me to create this really beautiful mindset around weight and what weight means to me. And when we say weight loss, I always say, like, I don't really think we're losing too much here. What I think is that we're releasing a story that we've been telling ourselves. And I know this can sound a little bit woo, so stick with me here. But when we release potentially any weight that's been holding us back, maybe that was a bit of protection, or maybe that was some hormonal shifting that happened around us having our multiple children. Or I work with a lot of women who have suffered miscarriages and their hormones have been up and down like a roller coaster ride. And so when we look at this weight and this number and the size of clothing that we're buying, all of that has a really deep rooted story. So sometimes we need to look in the mirror and get really clear with the mindset around our body and ultimately the mindset that we have around our weight. If you're constantly identifying as somebody who procrastinates or is lazy or just doesn't have the time or the energy to move your body or prepare healthful foods, then I want you to take a look at that. I want you to write that down and think of ways that we could flip that perspective. What are other areas of your life that you really excel? Potentially it's keeping the house nice and clean and tidy, or keeping up on the calendar for all of the school activities that your kids have. If you're able to find the motivation to make it to all of the birthday parties, to get all of the teacher gifts, to keep the house nice and tidy, why can't we pull assets of your personality from those areas into these? There is no logical reason that we can't. So I want you to think through this. Like, I do have that motivation. I do have that drive. I just don't really have it around preparing healthy foods or getting myself outside to move my body. So once you have this shift in mindset, then what we can do is we can say like, no, I'm not a lazy person. I'm just a little bit nervous to add this into my routine. Or no, I know that I'm a little bit tired, but in the long run, I know I feel more energized when I consistently move my body. And focusing on that mindset is honestly more than half of the battle. My third tip is to focus on your routine. So as I just mentioned in the last tip, if you're somebody who wakes up immediately, lays in bed and scrolls on your phone, I highly encourage you to try and break that habit and shift your routine to a more positive one that will support you in your goals to releasing weight and or nourishing and loving on your metabolism. Something I like to do first thing in the morning is to turn around. I'll put in some footage here on the screen to turn around in my bed and instantly do legs up the wall. You don't have to do it in your bed. You can come downstairs. You can do it in your kitchen. You can do it in your bathroom, wherever fits you best. That's a really great way to nourish your lymphatic system and your glymphatic system and to get your circulation going. From there, I love to head downstairs and make my lemon ginger tonic. I will put a YouTube short here for you up in the cards. And this is a beautiful way to not only start our day hydrated, which is very important when we're talking about releasing weight and or losing weight, but also is critically important to rev up that metabolism. These different ingredients that we can strategically add into our routine will pay dividends. And when I hear people say to me, like, I don't have time to cook all of my meals from scratch, one, neither do I. And two, there's so many healthy hacks. If you could give me 1 hour on a Sunday or a Saturday, or maybe it's a Monday when the kids are in school, 1 hour a week to ingredient prep all of your foods. I will put a video for you up here in the cards, likewise in the description box down below, where I talk about my meal planning and my meal prepping. But if you could take that 1 hour to prepare 1 cup of quinoa, 1 cup of lentils, you could wash and chop all of your produce. You could make up all of your smoothie bags for the week. You could make a healthy baked good. That way, when you do feel hungry, you're not one in the pantry looking for foods that don't give us that much nutrition. And two, we are increasing our nutritional intake by eating these foods that are rich in polyphenols. So I think it's really important to take a peek at our routine and realize, one, we don't have to cook from scratch all day, every day. There's these little shortcuts that we can do to decrease our time in the kitchen. Believe you me, I do everything in my power to increase my efficiency in the kitchen because it does take a lot of time. Also, I kind of flip my perspective. I love to either one, listen to an audiobook or a podcast when I'm doing my ingredient prepping, or I'll pop open my iPad, I'll watch a YouTube video or a show. I make it a little bit of self-care time as well. So if you could look at your routine and find areas where you could carve out 1 hour a week for me, and you could do this ingredient prepping for 2 weeks, I promise you that you could come back to this video and you could let me know that you've developed a more sustainable routine that has you feeling encouraged and nourished. And I can also promise you that along the way, including these more nutrient-dense foods, you will begin to see a shift on the scale. If you're a subscriber of my channel, then you will not be shocked to hear this next tip, and that is to please stop restricting your foods. When we have these foods that are off limits or foods that we cannot eat, it can really prohibit us from long-term reaching and sustaining our goal of feeling our best. So I'm somebody who used to have highly restrictive eating habits. about 15 years ago, and it came with a lot of judgment around food, judgment of other people's foods. And I can tell you today, as somebody who no food is off limit for me, quite literally no food is off limit, I am actually at a different weight than I was back then. And my lab work reflects this beautifully. We're gonna get into that here next. But when you are so highly restrictive, it actually can cause inflammation in the body, which can make it difficult for us to actually release the weight. It can spike our cortisol levels, and therefore our metabolism does not run as efficiently. Instead of being restrictive, I'm somebody who eats carbs, bananas, pasta, pizza, you name it, I eat it all. However, I am a big fan of volume eating, as so it's coined and termed in the health and wellness industry. So I don't quite call it necessarily volume eating, but I do think that for understanding purposes, that's like a great way for me to explain it. So I'm somebody, let's say my family's having like spaghetti bolognese for dinner. I've been sharing this and showing this for over 4 years, but I will eat the spaghetti with my family. We use a beautiful quinoa pasta that's delicious. Everybody loves it. It's a great way to get in a super grain with a ton of protein and amino acids. Something that I like to do is I like to fill the base of my bowl with like a hearty kale or an arugula or a spinach. So I take my bowl and I fill it with a ton of raw greens. Then I take the spaghetti noodles and then I go ahead and I put the bolognese sauce on top, and it wilts those greens and it kind of cooks it into my pasta. One, this saves me time from having to prepare an extra salad, but I'm typically already doing that. Two, what this does is it adds a ton of volume to my meal, and I don't find myself going back for more and more and more of the actual pasta. I'm setting a beautiful example for my children by eating the same foods that they are. That's really important to me. No food is off limit, no food is bad, no food is good. Certain foods just make us feel better. Okay, that's the language that I really want us to pay attention to. But one, I'm setting a good example for my children. It's a beautiful experience to eat dinner together. I think it's important to eat the same meal. But two, I'm filling myself up on beautiful phytonutrients that do give that feeling of satiety. They do build that volume in your stomach because they are rich in plant fiber. And I smile and I laugh as I say that because I always say here on my channel that fiber to me is the most important nutrient, especially for women's hormones. So other than volume eating, I think that it's also really important to have delicious, healthy baked goods around so that when you do have that sweet craving, because I do tend to crave sweet foods, not salty, but if you do have that sweet craving and it hits, you're not deprived. You're seeing here on the screen B-roll of a video I put up 2 weeks ago with my spring what I eat in a day, and I have a delicious cottage cheese, lemon, zucchini, poppy seed loaf. I have a frosting on top of it. You eat this. One, it is so filling. You don't need like 3 to 4 slices of it. One will keep you full for at least an hour and a half, if not 2 hours. And I like to enjoy this with a cup of tea. But other than that, you're still satisfying that craving. We're not restricting it and completely taking sweets off the table. So it's really important to me that you understand we don't need to be restrictive. Let's just be strategic and crowd out the foods that don't make us feel our best. My 5th tip is to understand your hormones and your metabolism. This is so important. We're so hyper focused on calories in versus calories out, but as somebody who has studied nutrition and I've been working in the wellness space for 14 years, I can promise you that this is a much bigger conversation than a caloric deficit. It just quite simply is. If there is hormone dysfunction happening in your body, if your thyroid is off, if you are underproducing testosterone, overproducing estrogen, it's going to be extremely hard for you to release weight, regardless of how many calories you cut. If you just eat raw foods all day and you hope to be burning through these calories, it's just not going to happen. So we need to be hyper vigilant with understanding our bodies and being more intuitive. Of course, as a woman, are there going to be weeks where you're craving more sweets than others? Yes. During menstruation. Is that healthy? Yes. Should you be eating more carbohydrates during that time? Absolutely. So it is so important to understand that we need to be metabolically flexible. To have our weight shift anywhere from 4 to 6 pounds within a week, within a given day is very normal, and this shows signs of a healthy metabolism. If our metabolism has been so restricted over the years from yo-yo dieting, then we're stuck in a rut, and it will be very hard for us to budge from any certain weight. So this is where I say that it is critically important to get lab testing. To me, if we're not testing, we're guessing. I do work with my clients to be a bit intuitive because anecdotally, our bodies give us a ton of evidence of what's happening. However, if you are somebody who's completely at a standstill and you are stuck at a certain weight, then I would highly encourage you to give certain lab testing a try. I will have my favorites linked for you in the description box down below. But once we understand our hormones and the role that they play in our weight loss journey and aligning with the proper weight for our body, we can understand that cortisol and stress, our adrenals, and our thyroid really should be the headliner of this conversation. So I think it's important to get a peek at what's happening with all of those things once we get our hormones to a very strong baseline. So if you're in the Living Well membership area, then April and October's updates would be perfect for this, going through those action steps, and those 8 weeks of meal plans will really support our hormone health. So once we have a better understanding of our hormones, then it's time to shift over to our metabolism. It's not simply calories in, calories out. So I want to thank Lumen for sponsoring and working with me on this portion of today's video, because this device, I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have already seen Lumen all of your social media feed, and that is simply because this is a revolutionary tool. Lumen is actually the first worldwide portable tool that allows us to accurately measure our own metabolism. The fact that this is available for consumers, because this is something that used to be extremely expensive and only available within a medical setting and then in the biohacking community, but now I'm so excited because Lumen has made this extremely accessible to everyone. So measuring our metabolism with this level of science is nothing new. However, having this level of science at our fingertips as the general public is an unbelievable tool. So what Lumen is doing is it is checking our CO2 from our breath. And what that does is it indicates the fuel that your body is currently using to produce energy. This technology is unbelievable. You all know I'm a huge fan of using tech gadgets in a very strategic way. I've talked about my Oura Ring for the last year and a half and my obsession with measuring these markers. Lumen is that level of technology, but for our metabolism. With Lumen, you can track your metabolism daily, and therefore you can see how your metabolism is affected by your sleep, your nutrition. And the incredible thing is, with this technology, we can get some customized science around your meals, when you should be eating them and how you should be eating these different foods that in turn will benefit your overall metabolic health. If you're interested in giving Lumen a try, I will include my link for you in the description box down below. You can also use the code Jessica Spiers at checkout to get $50 off your Lumen device. This next tip may feel like a no-brainer, but I have to include it because we have to pay attention to our sleep and our stress levels. So paying attention to our sleep and our stress is so important to releasing weight. If you do want to release weight, not everybody does. Some people just want to nourish their metabolism and eat the foods that are right for them. Other people want to gain a little bit of weight, while some may want to release a few pounds. And if you're not paying attention to your sleep and to your stress levels, your cortisol hormones, like we just spoke about, will be going up and down like a roller coaster. So it is important to be conscientious of our sleep, the window of sleep that we're getting, and to ensure that we're getting deep, restful sleep. This will help us with hunger cravings the next day, lower our overall inflammatory response. So I encourage you that, I know this is one of those tips that you're like, yeah, my stress, yeah, my sleep. But if you could really bring a mindful practice to these two things, you will see a huge improvement in your overall cravings and your energy to move your body the next day. And my final tip is to, and I know this sounds cheesy, but to love yourself regardless of that number or the size of your clothing. And I know you've heard this and it sounds so cheesy, but hear me out for a second, okay? When you can be accepting of this beautiful body, you get one body, you guys, like this is it. We get one of these. And in 10 years from now, you're gonna look back and be like, I wish that I would have loved myself a little bit more. I wish I would have taken care of myself a little bit more. If you can just love your body and give your body that love, it will change all of the other tips that we've already covered in today's video. It will change your mindset about going to sleep. It will change your mindset about the foods that you choose to eat. It will change your mindset around your routine because you're thinking, I get one body. I get one life. And I want you to think about it like your kids. If you are a mother and your daughter or your son was speaking to themselves the way that we speak to ourselves, you would be horrified. And this is something that all of us have to work on, myself included. But I look at this and I'm like, you know what? I'm never gonna be 38 years old again. I need to be grateful for the body I have. I need to take care of this body so that it will help me lead a long, healthy life. And the more you love on your body, the more you tend to take care of it. And I just want you to understand that you're not going to feel any different. I'm with you. I hear you. I've been extremely thin right after I gave birth to Sawyer, and some of my earlier videos here on YouTube, my body got very, very, very thin. That is not my natural set point. I'm not meant to be that thin, but that's what happens to me when I'm nursing, especially for an extended period of time. And then as I gain the weight back, and especially looking at yourself on camera, you can be very hard on yourself. And I think like, oh, if I could only get back to that, I would feel more confident, or I could wear this. But I have to tell you guys, that's not the case. Because the grass is always greener. We're always gonna think like, well, if I look like this, or if I reach that number, I would feel like fill in the blank. And that is quite simply not the case. You can choose to feel any way you want right now. If you wanna feel healthy, wake up tomorrow, do legs up the wall, make yourself a lemon ginger tonic, blend up a smoothie, out the door you go, feeling like a rock star. Okay? You can make the choice to feel any way you want. Yes, your actions can absolutely help you build this momentum, motivation, and routine to feel better. But in the meantime, give yourself grace. Show your body some love. And during that, your hormones begin to balance. As we lower that cortisol, your inflammation tends to dissolve. Your overall inflammation responses in your body are indeed better. And then once something starts working for you, just do it over and over and over again. Don't make it overly complicated. Do the same thing. Get the basics down and repeat the basics over and over and over. When you have those basics and you've got that strong foundation, everything else will thrive. So I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. And if you're interested in learning more about your metabolism and aligned weight loss, I will have everything for you linked in the description box down below for the membership area. Likewise, if you are interested in the more tech side of measuring your metabolic health, which I would highly encourage you to do so, I will leave the link for Lumen for you in the description box down below, as well as the first pinned comment. And you can use my code Jessica Spiers at checkout to save $50. And if you like today's video, you can let me know by giving a big thumbs up. And now the subscribe button is right over here on the screen. Give that a click. That way you don't miss a single video. And I hope to see you back here next Thursday.